is always left up to the imagination, is just off screen. So it's like, even when they're going in to kill somebody, you're getting the reaction of those people, but then they're getting pulled off screen. And so it's always just kind of left up to what you think is going on, or like how they go out is left in your mind's eye. And then it comes to that rave, and it just hits so hard.
Yeah. They just go, they're like, I know it was earlier, but they're biting heads and blood. That was Kiefer's idea, the head bite.
Oh, just right on the top of the head.
Yeah. And then
that's gnarly.
You got the fog and the fire and just people being ripped to shreds and the helplessness of it all.
But I love the camera tricks, especially when David is talking to Michael of how, now you know what we are. And like he's talking from the shadows, and then you start to see his eyes start to red and yellow up, and then he leans into the light and he's morphed completely into a vampire. It's just the camera work is so sly and so good.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that's what keeps this thing relevant.
The final battle. Remember when I sent you the message to take a look at that? How there's a lot of just quick zooms in and how everything gets tighter on their faces. And it's kind of heightened the way they play it. I mean, this movie, listen, you bring in Michael Chapman who did Raging Bull and Taxi Driver, you're going to get some good work in here.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, once again, I think this is another case of, they do a good job with the psychology of it too. To save money on the budget, they had the POV shot, but that's even scarier because you're seeing, like, when Sam is running out there to save the Nook. I have been watching that scene for 20 years and it still gets me every time. I'm like, get in the Nook in, like, don't.
Michael,
yeah,
you're coming, Michael, run, Michael.
Oh, so many
Michael,
people yelling,
Michael.
But yes, it's just those tricks, and at the end, just the quick zoom ins on the faces when they know how to pull back, they know how to pull in, They know how to kind of get the romantic shots of that, how to frame each character. I mean, a lot of this stuff is lit with, at night you have a lot of fires lighting the scenes. You have just a lot of different, interesting, warm colors. And I like what Schumacher said when they were shooting one of the scenes. He's like, I'm going to be doing all nights. This sucks. Which I thought was really funny. Schumacher had this realization that you and I have worked some nights. Well, we've worked, okay. No, we've just worked late into the night. We haven't worked full nights, have we?
You and I haven't. I have.
Because you and I
we never did together, I don't think.
I was with you for a couple nights on whatever, Resurrection, and we worked nights. But that wasn't a night shoot. That was just a split, maybe.
Yeah, that was like, that would have been like a split. Yeah, getting off at 3 or 4 in the morning.
Dude, nights are a different world.
Nights are horrible.
But I guess what's good, though, is that Schumacher had a bunch of young kids on this movie that were hungry and wanting to work. Well, Patrick turned it down about 47 times from what I heard. And he brought Gertz in because of the play that he did with her. But, yeah, I mean, you have a young crew, you have a hungry crew, young kids. I mean, I bet the shoot was pretty wild, I would say. But you had a lot of energy from these up-and-comers. So it probably wasn't too bad, right? Just working on this thing.
And I think they shot it in 3 weeks.
Yeah, they shot it fast.
So, I mean, that is incredibly fast for a feature film.
Well, Schumacher, dude, he turned in Batman Forever under budget and I think on time or before time. But you watch Batman Forever and you're thinking to yourself, how did someone do this under budget? It blows my mind that he did that movie on time and under budget. And so I guess he got a good start with this film knocking that stuff out. Because
I'm just thinking of the 3-week shooting period, too. So, I mean, what we did, Game of Your Life, which was an NBC movie of the week.
How long did that take?
I think that was roughly 20 days. So that's a 4-week shoot.
Wait, for an NBC movie, it was 4 weeks?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think Hallmark can knock them out in 2 weeks.
I'd have to go back and look at the call sheet, but I remember it roughly being around 20 days.
Wow.
And, I mean, just thinking that an NBC movie of the week takes longer to shoot than The Lost Boys. So that just shows you, I think, how well they prepped this thing and what Schumacher knew what he wanted to do going into it.
I mean, but I mean, you look at these shots at the when they're out at night, they purposely make it really dark. They shroud it in the smoke so you can't see that much more. And I think maybe he knew what to hide, so you didn't need big wide shots at night.
Yeah.
Right? So I think there's smart decisions you can make.
And outside of a bunch of establishing shots, that's pretty, I mean, you're spot on. there's a bunch of establishing shots, especially early on, where a lot of aerial photography. And I think that also eats up some serious camera time, too, because it almost turns in, he's always got music blasting to that, so it's becoming a music video simultaneously. But you're right, like, outside of the establishing shots in the big wides, everything to do with a character is usually tight, medium shots up on him.
Just knock it out.
You've got Tim Capello's big song and the big party on the boardwalk. But then that's it. Everything else is pretty confined.
Yeah, 3 days with that. So that's not, because you have the comic book location, and then you have the couple houses, and then the big lair. But they don't spend much time. They have a big scene in there where he's kind of getting Michael to drink.
Yeah.
A lot of scenes at that house.
Yeah, most of the movies at the house. And then, and then when the Frog Brothers and Sam realize that they've got to prep for the final battle, they're doing their little errands and runs, and they go to a church and fill up their canteens with holy water.
Oh, that's the funniest scene. I love those guys.
In the middle of a baptism.
And they bring out a canteen to soak up the water. Oh, I love it.
They put holy water in their squirt guns.
And then the pool, the tub of garlic. But that's what
I'm not sure if garlic actually worked, though, did it?
Well, the vampire got pushed into it, and
he got pushed into it, but most of it, I think, was from the holy water.
Wait, oh, yeah.
Because I think they've got, don't they hold garlic up to Paul or something like that? And he's like, that doesn't work. And then they splash the holy water on his face, it starts to melt him away.
And and then they just splash him. Then he gets that cool makeup effect of the water on his face. And then Nanook wipes him out.
His skin off.
And then they tried to do it to Max, but this is another interesting thing about the mythology is where Max gets invited and then the normal tricks don't work on him.
Yes. I forgot about that earlier.
What? I love it though, right?
So I wrote down a list of rules, or like vampire laws that this movie have listed out. And so number one, I've got like dog guardians. Dogs are the guardians unless owned by someone else. So it's interesting, like Thorn is Max's guardian and he's a vampire, so he guards his master, but then Nanook guards a human. So it's like you also have that split guardianship where it just shows, I guess, they're fiercely loyal to their owner. Mm-hmm. The wood and the stake through the heart will kill a vampire. They're susceptible to holy water. They do not have a reflection. And they don't go full vamp until after first kill. And then the sixth rule, all above rules do not imply if they're invited into a house.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
So so in this world, there's definitely a god, correct? Because holy water works.
Yeah, there must be.
So this is how in some zombie movies it's like a virus or this is just a supernatural curse or a blessing for somebody. So but those guys that broke into their house, were they invited? So then holy water shouldn't have worked.
They were not invited.
So how'd they get in the house?
They broke in. Like, Paul went through... No, Paul appeared suddenly upstairs, so you have to assume he came through a window. Dwayne busted through the fireplace.
But does that mean... Okay, so if you're not invited in, you can just kick the door in? But then that means you're not susceptible. You're still... Okay, you can kick the door in, but that means holy water can kill you. But if you're invited in, holy water doesn't kill you.
Yes, I think it's kind of their trickery, that if they're invited... If they can get somebody to invite them into the house or invite them onto a premises, then they pretty much can do whatever they want. They're invincible, more or less.
So what's the supernatural power?
So if they're unwilling... Oh, go ahead.
So, like, what's the supernatural power, then? Okay, so the supernatural power knows you were invited. So then that holy water...
Oh, I see what you're getting at. Yeah.
So what's the switch? And I love it, by the way, because they say it in the movie, so it makes sense. But I like that there's some form of demonic power or shield or cloak.
It must be some sort of, I guess, I think I like your term, the demonic shield that is triggered on persuasiveness or invitation. And I think that also goes into, what these vampires do and how they persuade, influence other people to, go against their will or do something they don't want to do, or
Yeah.
their hallucinatory powers as well.
I mean, he almost drives Michael off of a cliff.
Yeah.
Man, Michael. So many Michaels.
118 of them.
Oh, I love it. Hey, so how about this? Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we will talk more The Lost Boys. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks, and I just enjoyed some delicious Oreo cookies and root beer. Tom enjoyed some maggots. How were they?
Maggots and worms. They're worms, Michael. You're eating worms. They're pretty good. I love noodles.
They just put them in a thing. They just put in a box of maggots.
Box of maggots and worms. Hey, it's protein. It'll get you by.
Yeah, I guess. What would you rather have, maggots or Oreos and a root beer?
Oreos and a root beer for sure. But it's tough. Now that you mention it, that's a tough thing. So I've got a serious question for you here.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of times we like to talk about strategy and being tactical, especially in battles with some of our podcasts that we do, and how smart characters are to get things to go the way they need them to go. Does Sam, Michael, and the Frog Bros make a huge tactical blunder by killing Marco, by going into the cave and killing Marco? Because I'm asking, because right after they kill him and they get back to the surface, they realize that sunset is coming up and the vampires are going to be coming after them in just a couple hours. So why did they do that at like 5 p.m.?
They're kids, right?
Just dumb kids.
Now, when you and I were 15 years old, right, we did not think step B, right? We weren't proactive at that age, I think. We were dumb kids fueled by, and the Frog Brothers, they're more brawn than brain, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think they really have any brain.
So they just jumped into it because they're kids. I think they just went and did it. They wanted to do it, so they did it. Why didn't they just throw a Molotov cocktail in there? Why didn't they just light it on fire? All their stuff.
They probably should have.
Yeah.
Or brought in like high-powered flashlights and just burned them up.
I mean, tactically, horrible idea, right? But I guess we can allow 15-year-olds.
Cinematically, it's great.
Yeah.
It works out well. It crams the action together.
It's just 15-year-old kids. I don't think we can be too... Does that make sense? I don't think we can be too hard on them for doing that.
Other than them almost getting each other killed, but yeah.
I mean, would Marco and them have gone after them that night? Would they have known to go chase them down?
Probably not. They probably would have let them be for a few nights.
Yeah.
I mean, so they could have really made some kick-ass sweet plan, and then they just kind of rushed it.
Yeah, but...
And then blundered it with Marco's slaying.
I think they're just kids.
Or Alex Winter.
Yeah, that was such a bloody death. The squirming of it. That's a violent, brutal death. I like, too, their vampire feet. So are their feet always vampiric, or only vampiric when they turn into their bat form?
I think they've kind of got control over it. I think because you also see when they morph. So I don't think, they're all still wearing their shoes and their boots when they morph into their vampire form. So I don't think that their big, long bat feet would fit in regular shoes.
Yeah.
So I think they probably have control over, what they need to when they're hanging upside down, sleeping.
Does the blood not get to their brains?
For them, it probably doesn't matter. They don't have blood in them. They're not pumping any. Well, they must because they're shooting blood out when they die.
Yeah, and they're drinking it.
Some sort of sludge.
Yeah, that was sludgy, wasn't it? It was a goo.
It was just a goop.
Oh,
just a goopy mess. So I would have loved to see the scene, though, where they all drop back down after Marco's death, and they have to put their shoes on before they fly away.
Hold up! Gotta put on our sneaks.
Gotta lace up my big boots with the 35 lace straps on them.
They have the pumps, the Reebok pumps.
Yes.
No, but I think that adds more to... That's what I like about this movie, though, is we're learning with the characters as we go along. And I like that. Like, like with Max, it's kind of fun that everyone's sort of on the same page as we're going on this adventure with them. Does that make sense?
Mm.
I think it adds another element to why it's so rewatchable. These aren't all-knowing kids, and they aren't totally stupid kids. We're just learning, and a lot of times, Like, you know how they talk about what Hitchcock talked about suspense and